Nobody really prepares you for what happens to the human body the second gravity disappears. Bones weaken, vision can shift, muscles slowly forget what they were built to do. And that's exactly the environment Jonny Kim willingly stepped into. During his first mission aboard the International Space Station, the former Navy SEAL turned medical doctor wasn't just floating around in space. He became his own test subject. Every blood draw, every eye scan, every ultrasound was part of a much bigger question. Can the human body actually survive long-term in deep space? Kim performed detailed medical exams on himself and fellow crew members, testing everything from bone density to immune response, gathering data that will shape the future of missions to the Moon and eventually Mars. But the changes in the human body were only the beginning of what he uncovered up there. Because the next experiment didn't involve humans at all. It involved something growing in the dark. While the crew focused on their own health, something far more fragile was quietly taking shape nearby. Tiny dwarf tomato sprouts were pushing their way upward in complete defiance of nature's rules. Instead of relying on sunlight like every plant on Earth, these seedlings were fed with a special acetate-based nutrient supplement, essentially forcing them to grow without traditional photosynthesis. Jonny Kim closely photographed and monitored the plants, documenting how their genes responded to this artificial environment. If this process can be perfected, future astronauts could grow fresh food in deep space using fewer resources, less power, and almost no natural light at all. It sounds like science fiction, but these glowing green leaves in orbit may be the blueprint for survival on Mars. And just when the experiments couldn't get more futuristic, Kim moved on to something even more unbelievable: storing data inside living DNA. Up in orbit, information might be more valuable than food or water, and protecting it is just as critical. That's why Jonny Kim worked with an experiment that sounds almost unreal: encrypting data inside strands of DNA. Instead of relying on traditional hard drives, researchers are testing whether genetic material can be used to store and transmit secure information in extremely harsh environments. Kim handled specialized hardware that sequenced DNA loaded with encrypted data, checking to see if radiation, microgravity, or extreme temperature shifts would damage its contents. If it works long-term, future missions could carry enormous amounts of data in a space no larger than a grain of salt. Just imagine, entire libraries stored inside biology. But while information was being preserved in microscopic strands, something else was happening from miles above Earth. Kim was actually controlling machines on the planet below. From hundreds of miles above the planet, Jonny Kim was reaching back down to Earth in real time. Using an advanced remote operation system, he tested technology that allowed him to control robots on the ground directly from the International Space Station. Every movement, every delay, every tiny error was recorded, helping engineers learn how humans might one day operate machines on the Moon or even Mars without ever setting foot there. This kind of relationship between human and machine could be the key to building habitats, repairing equipment, or exploring dangerous terrain long before a crew arrives. It was a silent test run for interplanetary control. But while his hands were guiding machines on Earth, deep inside the station, something far more personal and potentially risky was changing within the human body itself. Weightlessness doesn't just make you float. It quietly starts breaking your body down from the inside. One of the biggest dangers is rapid bone loss, and Jonny Kim took part in an investigation that looked at what was happening at the source: bone marrow stem cells. In microgravity, these cells can change the way they build and dissolve bone, throwing the entire system out of balance. Kim helped analyze how these signals shift in space, and whether blocking certain responses could slow or even stop the damage. The information gathered here isn't just for astronauts either. It could lead to new ways to fight age-related bone loss on Earth. But right when scientists started to understand what was happening inside the body, Kim shifted his focus to something much smaller and incredibly valuable: microscopic gold. Inside the station's specialized crystal lab, Jonny Kim was working with something that looked barely visible to the eye, but could completely change future technology: golden nanospheres. These tiny, perfectly shaped gold particles have powerful optical and electronic properties, and they're even safe to use inside the human body. In microgravity, materials form differently than they do on Earth, so Kim tested upgraded hardware designed to create larger and more uniform nanospheres than ever before. If perfected, they could revolutionize everything from medical treatments to high-tech sensors and diagnostics. It was a quiet experiment with massive implications. But while advanced materials were forming in the lab, another project was bubbling away nearby, and this one had a very familiar smell to it. Tucked away inside brightly colored production bags, something unexpected was coming to life. Yogurt and kefir, fermenting in the middle of space. Jonny Kim monitored a unique experiment that used bioengineered yeast and probiotics to create nutrient-rich food over long periods of time. In deep space, carrying endless supplies of fresh food isn't an option, and many vitamins slowly lose their strength the longer they sit in storage. This system, marked by a purple-pink pH indicator that changed color as the mixture fermented, allowed astronauts to actually see when the process was working. If successful, future crews could make fresh, healthy food on demand, even during journeys that last years. But as this small, self-sustaining food source proved its potential, Kim turned his attention to a strange and mesmerizing behavior in one of the most complex substances known to science: high-concentration protein fluids. Inside the microgravity science glove box, Jonny Kim studied something that refuses to behave normally in space: high-concentration protein fluids. On Earth, gravity helps control the movement and shape of these complex liquids, but in orbit, they twist, stretch, and shift in completely unexpected ways. By observing how these proteins reacted in a weightless environment, scientists can build better models for how similar fluids behave in the human body and in industrial processes. This kind of research could unlock breakthroughs in how certain medications are created, including advanced treatments for serious diseases. What looks like a simple floating droplet was actually a window into the future of medicine. And then, as if to remind him just how closely connected space and Earth truly are, Kim turned toward the planet below and captured a moment the world could never see from the ground. From rewiring how the human body survives without gravity, to growing food in darkness, storing data in DNA, and creating gold at the microscopic level, Jonny Kim's first mission wasn't just a stay in space. It was a preview of humanity's future. Every experiment, every scan, every strange, floating droplet was another step toward living beyond Earth. And when he aimed his camera back down at the planet, capturing massive storms like Hurricane Umberto from hundreds of miles above, it quietly revealed the bigger truth behind it all. Space exploration isn't only about leaving Earth. It's about understanding it, protecting it, and learning how fragile and extraordinary it truly is. And as Kim prepares to return home, one question remains. If this is what humanity can achieve in just one mission, what happens when we finally set foot on Mars?